And here is Johnny on the spot.
Well, good morning, well, it's morning here in lovely Bakersfield, high atop the corporate towers of the John Wood Fan Club. We're up to 4 people now. And welcome to the show, Johnny on the Spot. I'm Johnny. This is The Spot, brought to you by Turtleneck Productions because I have a turtleneck. My wonderful guest today is the remarkable, charming, entrepreneurial doyen. Oh, look at that!
Wow.
Of New Mexico and the world at large, Ranny Levy. Ranny, welcome and thank you so much for being on the show.
It's a real pleasure, John. I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
We're up to 5 fans. Good.
And appreciative of all that you've done as a reviewer of music for Kids First.
Thank you. Kids First. Let's start first there, then we'll go backwards a little bit for some stuff I don't know about you. Kids First. Could you give us a little bit of background on, and then I'll fill in where I might have fit into that scenario.
I can do that. I'll give you my elevator speech. How's that?
That sounds good. Let me push the button. Go.
Well, we are a project of a 32-year-old nonprofit founded in 1991. The corporate name is Coalition for Quality Children's Media, which is why you can understand we use the term Kids First when referring to it, because the corporate name is way too long. But we were founded, really, we came out of the media literacy movement. And as one of my board members likes to call it, it's really media literacy in action. So rather than analyze and discuss media in general, we plow right into evaluating, reviewing, and sharing our reviews of all the latest media that's coming down the pike, whether it's films or, it used to be videos, then DVDs, now it's all streaming media, TV shows. To some degree, we'll also do apps or books or, other things like that. But kind of the cornerstone of what we do is our Kids First Film Critics program, which is a group of tweens and teens, kids between the ages of 9 and 20, who we send out to press screenings, to press junkets, to red carpets, and behind the scenes events. So they review all the latest media, PG-13 or younger. We don't do R-rated. They also interview celebrities on the red carpet, at press junkets, which are live or online. And, they're standing side by side with seasoned entertainment reporters. So sometimes that doesn't weigh too well on the seasoned reporters who, they're standing there, they're 45 years old and they're going, this took me 20 years to get here. And, here you are 12 years old doing my job.
But what I've seen of some of those interviews, I think is brilliant because, a lot of these seasoned reporters have kids of their own.
That's true.
When the kid comes up like Oliver Twist, please, sir, can I have an interview? Why, yes, of course you can, young person.
That's right. Yeah.
But what is really super about your Kids First is that they're trained, they're motivated, extremely intelligent. So you have a system only second to Starbucks and how you hire your kids to do, because they are super people, wonderful people, and I'm sure a lot of them have gone on to other situations and been very successful.
Well, recently we did a survey of a group of our alumni, kids who joined us when they were 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. who are now either in college or recent graduates are now working in the entertainment business. And we asked them to tell us how their experience as a Kids First reporter affected their college career and now their career as a young adult. And it was very heartwarming to read their responses to that. We've been using excerpts of them in our end of the year fundraising campaign because it's so compelling. You know, one of them who really is a very darling young man who I'm very close with him and his mother. His name is Kiefer Carteen. Kiefer Blakeslee Carteen, actually. He just graduated.
I met Kiefer on the radio interview.
That's right, you did.
Great kid.
Yes,
Great
yeah,
kid.
great kid. He just graduated from the Met Film School in London last winter, and he's now working as a producer and director in London. Fully employed, and he just raved about how Kids First helped him. When he joined our team, he had a speech impediment, but he was so brilliant, and I remember one of the things that I did during his training is I assigned him a number of YouTube videos that I found to work on his enunciation skills. And I said, I want you to do this every day for no less than 35 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
And you tell me at the end of the week what you learn. And he'd do it. And then he'd write me and talk to me about, how it changed things for, I mean, YouTube is a wonderful resource for things like that. His most memorable experience, he was a very big Mel Brooks fan, and I was able to get him into AFI did, a Lifetime Achievement Award for Mel back. This was 10 years ago or more. And I was able to get Kiefer not only on the red carpet, but also into the event.
Wow. You must have loved that.
So, and it was his birthday, the day that he did it. So that was definitely his most memorable experience.
Am I to assume that those cards behind you on the wall are from some of your fans, as it were?
Those are all thank you cards.
Wow, that's great.
They're kind of falling down. I should have a better system. And you can see how high up I can reach also.
I know. I think it's got the let's throw this against the wall and see what sticks, people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now let me move on a little bit, or let's go back in the not so far way back machine. Where were you born?
Okay, but do remind me, because I only told you about one thing that we do, that reviewing films. So do remind me. I do want to come back sometime.
We're going to circle back. Absolutely.
Talk about our film festivals, because that's another really important thing that we do. I was born in the great state of Michigan.
That's where my son lives.
Oh, really?
My son and his family live in Clarkston, which is a rural area outside of Detroit.
Okay. All right. Well, I grew up, I was born in Midland.
Okay.
Midland.
Is it Midland by its name? Is it middle of the country, of the state, or?
Yeah, pretty much. My dad worked for Dow Chemical Company there, and then we moved to Bay City, which is where I really grew up, in Bay City, on the lake, on Lake Huron. Bay City is right here.
Okay.
Michiganders, that's how we tell you where we lived. Yeah. So, and then I went to college in Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. Go Blue. And so I have fond memories and cold memories of Michigan.
You literally did walk 2 miles to school in your bare feet.
Well, I didn't walk 2 miles, but I did walk a mile in snow, know.
No, when I first came to the United States, we came to Canada and then moved across from Canada to Buffalo, New York. I know cold, boy, I tell you.
Yeah.
But, how long were you in Michigan? You were at the school there. I saw that your dad wanted you to be an engineer, and you took a different route. Tell us a little bit about that.
I did. Well, I always loved math and science. And my dad was an engineer. I was reading his degree. I was going through a bunch of family history stuff this summer. He was a chemical engineer, an aeronautical engineer, and a metallurgist.
Wow. Smart
So
man.
when we moved to Bay City, he and his colleagues bought the Dow Chemical plant in Bay City, and they turned it into an aerospace company, and he did contract work for NASA.
Amazing. That is great.
So yeah, he was involved in the Mercury and the Apollo programs.
Mm.
And I'll tell you a funny story about that. He used to try to get we had 4 children in our family, so I had 3 siblings, and he would try to get us to go to Florida with him for the space launches, you know, at the
Oh, yeah.
which was called Cape Canaveral then, which is now the Kennedy Space Center. And my sister and I would never go because it wasn't cool enough.
You were hip. Yeah.
Yeah. And so years later, as adults, I was in Orlando for a conference, and my sister came to meet me, and I said, you know what? After the conference, let's go over to the Kennedy Space Center and go see the things that Dad worked on.
How was that? Pretty cool, huh?
Pretty cool. But yeah, so I loved math and science. I grew up in a family that, you know, that was part of what we did. And also I had an amazing math teacher. I had the same teacher from 7th grade, junior high school through high school. We didn't have middle school then. It was 7 through 12 because I was in a district that had just built new schools. So we were the first graduating class that went through. So I had the same math teacher for like 8 years, you know?
Wow.
And you can imagine she knew us all. She knew our faults and our strengths. And she was remarkable. She didn't believe in homework or in taking homework home. So we would get our lesson, and then you would do your homework in class. And when you're finished, if you finish before the end of the class time, you could go to the back of the room and play poker.
Hey, and pick up a little extra money in the back of the classroom.
So not only did I learn math, but I learned poker at the same time.
And you're gonna go, well, they actually are interrelated, you know.
They are, yeah.
You know, that's funny. What a great teacher. No wonder you remember that one.
Yeah. So so I went to college planning to study engineering, and you know what? I found but I also was in theater. The two things just didn't really mesh very well. I was in theater and dance. And so I dropped the engineering part. I found my fellow students, engineering students, to be way too boring. And
were you always outgoing as a young person?
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I was in theater with people like Gilda Radner.
Oh, well, yeah, there you
and
go.
Tom Hulse. And my college roommate was Chris Lottie, who you might know.
Christine, I do know.
Yeah.
Chris Lottie, yes.
So that's why I found the engineering students boring. They didn't hold a candle
That
to
group, are you kidding? Come on. You went to school with Mozart? Come on.
So yeah, so it was, you know, it was a great college experience, I have to say.
And you now, was this to the chagrin of your father that you decide to move into theater and dance, or was he
Well, my father was a very open-minded guy and very supportive of his children. He had a unique capacity to make each one of us believe that he loved us best. And to this day, my sister and I will talk about that. My 2 brothers have passed away now, and we'll both say, but I know he really loved me best.
the old Smothers Brothers, the Smothers Brothers routine?
Exactly.
Mom likes you best, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Now, did your sister also pursue the arts or no?
No, no, no. My sister, like we were all required to play an instrument.
Mm.
My parents were both very musical. My um, father's family was all very musical, so I played the clarinet and saxophone, and I twirled the baton. I was actually more interested in twirling than playing the instrument, but it was kind of required in the family. My sister played the radio.
Ah, was she good at it?
She was very good at it.
Number one radio player in the house. Wasn't at the time though when the albums would come out and you'd listen to the whole album
Oh,
on
yeah.
the radio, it was great. We had now you were still in Michigan at this time.
But
When did you
I mean, we grew up listening to, contemporary music, the Beatles,
sure.
Rolling Stones, everybody, but also listening to big band music.
Now, was your mom what do they call it? A homemaker in those days?
She was a homemaker. Yes, she was a full-time homemaker. When my parents met, she had worked at my dad was in the Navy and she worked at the Navy base in Jacksonville, Florida. And she was an accountant there, I believe.
Mm.
Um, and then when they got married, she became a full-time mother and homemaker,
Well, with
and
four
which
kids,
she was very good at.
it's like hooking them up to a chariot, trying to keep them going in the same direction.
It's crazy,
Right.
yeah. But she handled it well. I mean, occasionally she would lose her mind and go a little bit crazy and yell at everybody, and we would just all run and take cover and cower for
Yeah, and
until she got over it.
wait till the storm passed.
Yeah, exactly.
Was your goal as you got up into college and you're studying dance? And by the way, you look like from the notes, you really studied dance. I mean,
I did, yes.
you
Uh-huh.
were a lot of the different disciplines and also teaching as well. So, what moved you out of that, or was that still a part of your life for a long time?
It was part of my life for quite a long time, for the first until I was like 40, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, but I also transitioned in my late 30s to working on I had always been involved with film from the time that I was at the university. I was very interested in um, using film or video, which was, 1 inch reel-to-reel video at that
Right.
time, to create things in dance that you couldn't do physically, but by manipulating them on video, you could create other things. So I was always interested, and I studied film making in college as well as because I was doing theater. So yeah, so I did switch ends of the camera and became a producer
Mm-hmm.
actually. Um, and that was I was living in Indiana at the time. And then when I moved to New Mexico in 82, I kind of went back to dance, opened a
Oh,
dance studio um, in outside of Las Cruces in the town of Mesilla, and taught at the university as well. But I was really drawn back to working into film again and found myself working more and more with filmmakers in Santa Fe.
mm.
And so after a few years, I moved to Santa Fe and started working for a production and distribution company in
Did you
Santa
move
Fe.
to New Mexico via marriage, or was it the job that brought you there, or a little bit of both? Or
Um, uh, well, my husband and I moved together uh, in 82. We moved to New Mexico actually initially in 82. We were torn. I had a job offer actually to work for CNN in Atlanta, and he had a job. He was an architect, and he had a job offer to work for a company in Las Cruces.
mm,
And we literally flipped a coin to decide which to do. But I did find myself working more and more in Santa Fe and So we moved to Santa Fe in 86. And I can't even count. I don't even know how long that has been. It's been a while, as I say.
I
People will
didn't
say
do.
you're like a native, and I go, you know what? We don't use that terminology here. There are natives who would not like us to call ourselves natives. We've been here for a while.
If I was to label you, which I wouldn't, but if I was, I would call you a traveler. And
Okay.
I would call you a traveler because not only of the every time I call you, I can't call you right now. I'm in Russia. I'll be back the next week. What are you doing next week? I'm in Greece. We're over in Greece. We're doing antiquity research. Where are you now? I'm in Iceland. I can't keep up with you. Thank God for Zoom. So
Oh,
that part of the traveler, and then the
yeah.
other part of the traveler is I find really intriguing with you is that you're open, and I think that's the lesson that we have in life is you're open to new adventures and new things, and yet you're very good at what you've learned and what you do. So you incorporate the old with the new, which I think is fabulous, and I think young people can also what's the word I'm looking for? Can move towards that. There's a better word for that. It's shorter and more concise. I'll have to look up Chat GPT and see what chat tells me. Let's circle back around because I don't want to run out of time. By the way, kidsfirst.org will be posting that. We'll also be showing pictures of some of the things that we've talked about.
Oh, good.
Without hopefully not the ones where your face is blurred out. You know, Ranny Levy was arrested again last night for dancing uncontrollably on the streets. So, let's come back around. You wanted to discuss your festival, which I think is incredibly exciting. Tell me about it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for remembering to do that. Yeah. Well, we started our film festival in 2000, actually, and we quickly realized that we didn't belong in the film festival production business. We're really good at reviewing films and curating films for a film festival. Putting on a film festival takes on a whole other category of needs. You need to have volunteers, you need to have a venue,
Right.
you have to do local publicity, you have to figure out how you're going to get what we call butts in seats,
Yep.
how to get people to show up. Because it's a children's film festival, we didn't necessarily need to fly in a bunch of A-list celebrities, which is one of the reasons why most film festivals go bankrupt, because you start flying in A-list celebrities and their entourage, and they have to fly first class and stay at 5-star hotels. It's a lot of money,
And hopefully they're still alive when they get there.
Exactly. Yeah. So we didn't have that, but we weren't so good at producing the festival ourselves. I mean, we did okay, but fortunately, I got a call from a gentleman in the Virgin Islands from St. Thomas, Carl Foster, who I credit as making our film festival expand all over the world. And he goes, so I see you're doing this film festival for kids and families. He goes, how would you like to bring it to the Virgin Islands? And I said, oh, yeah, we'd love to do that on the condition that you bring me. And this was in the middle of the winter that he called me, right? And he goes,
a traveler is coming to the Virgin Islands.
That's right. And he said, well, actually, that's part of the deal because American Airlines is one of our sponsors. And if we bring you and you bring the films with you, and that's when we were playing films on 3/4-inch videotape or 35 millimeter,
Right. Those big machines.
So, yeah. So if you bring the films with you, we don't have to pay to ship them. So, yeah, we want to bring you. And I'm like, I'm not sure if that was a backhanded compliment or what,
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was our first experience. And we took the festival to St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. And Carl had relationships with the resorts. So he was able to get the resorts to provide space for the screenings, and we had hundreds of kids in each of those cities. And I still remember setting up the space in St. Thomas, and he set the chairs like they were all like 20 feet back from the screen or so, and these weren't huge screens, they're, adequate. And I said, you got a lot of space there between the chairs and the screen. He goes, that's for dancing.
That's
I said, good idea. He goes, well, the preschool kids were playing these, films with lots of music in them. They're going to get up and dance.
that's great. What foresight.
Yeah. And I said, okay, I hadn't thought about that. And you'll love this. At that point, we always ask the participants to fill out little evaluation forms. So, we'd print them out on like half sheets of paper like this, right? And so after the screening with the preschoolers in the space outside the auditorium area, the parents and the kids would be sitting on the floor filling out the evaluation. You're sitting there with your 5-year-old going, so what was your favorite part of the film?
That's great.
Yeah. So, I do believe having a dialogue is very important. And so fast forward to today, we just finished programming for 5 film festivals that are taking place in October and November, and 3 of them have already taken place, and I have 2 more coming up. So 3 in the States, 1 in Pakistan, and 1 in Ukraine. And the Ukraine one is entirely virtual because of the situation there. I've been working with this Ukraine group for the last year quite a bit. I did a keynote speech at one of their conferences this summer. And so they've done a fabulous job in curating their festival. We provide them with a collection of films that they can select from, and we categorize them by age or by topic, or in a multitude of
They have
different.
homegrown films that they also are included.
Not this year.
Okay.
Although there are several films that were made by filmmakers in Ukraine, but they submitted them directly to us, not to this group, because they haven't done a festival before. But so they said to me, so so what else do we need to do? I said, the number one thing that you need to do is make sure that people show up, now that you've selected the films. And I went, all right, okay. And they're collaborating with a bunch of schools all over the country. They said, we think we got that covered, but do you ever do any evaluations of this? So I told them, how we've done this in the past. And I said, well, we have a bunch of university professors that we're working with, a university group that are on our planning team. So they need a job that feels like it's a important job. So we're going to do an evaluation of this. So that has morphed now into, we'll have discussions after the screening, and then we'll do a Q&A with the filmmaker. But we'll have a discussion that's moderated by one of their professors, so that we'll be talking, with the kids and the filmmaker to.
I'm curious, how did Pakistan come about as one of the venues?
They contacted us.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, let's make this happen. So is it? Do they do it out of the main city, or is it in one of the?
They also are working with a group of school. Now, their festival will be live, and it's going to take place in late November. So theirs will be live. So they're taking the films around to a number of schools.
So on your website, do we have access to those festivals? Since some of them are virtual. Could we get in or see excerpts from some of those events?
We don't play the films on our website. It's a licensing thing. We do have a category on the website, on the homepage, that shows for film festivals, what's being played and where it's being played, where and when it's
Right.
being played. So you can find it there. But we have an agreement with the filmmakers that the films can only be watched by people who are attending the festivals,
Gotcha.
whether it's live or remote. But so, for example, with this remote one, with the group from the Ukraine, you would have to register with them. And we will have a link on the website to that once they have that page up so that people could click over to it from the Kids First website.
Great.
That makes sense?
Yeah. No, it does. Absolutely. And by the way, the legalities, as I said the question, I realized the red flag going up and the legalities and all that to protect the filmmakers and to
Oh,
protect everybody
exactly.
involved.
Yeah. And you know, they get particularly squirrely about digital rights and playing anything online because of the question of piracy and you know, all of that kind of stuff. So everything that's submitted to us can be played at a live festival. Not everything that we accept can also be played online just because of restrictions that the filmmakers have. They might have, you know, licensed it to other places, so it conflicts with that. So yeah, it gets into a lot of licensing issues.
So well, November is right around the corner. So
Yes, it is. Yeah.
your event is coming up. Now, I know that Kids First is a nonprofit organization, and you do solicit donations to help in this terrific. Not only that event, but all the other events as well that you have going on. It's a multifaceted organism you've created there.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Yes. And we are in the middle of our end of the year campaign. So anybody who wants to see us survive and thrive, we have to raise about $50,000 a year in donations. And then that's matched by funds from other foundations and people that pay fees for different services that we provide.
No, that's
So
great.
we're
Well, hopefully this will help. Now, on Johnny on the spot, this is where I put you on the spot. And
okay.
I kind of gave you a hint earlier on with the sliding doors, and think of three situations in your life that had a profound. I've heard you talk, and there's been a bunch of them actually that you've talked about. Let's just pick three events in your life that either changed the course of what you were doing or enhanced what you're doing or reinforced perhaps the direction that you had decided on. That makes sense?
3 events. Okay. Yeah. Well, definitely the choice to move to New Mexico,
Mm.
definitely, you know, change things for me, dramatically. It's, and people often say, why New Mexico? I said, you know, my husband and I had owned in a wholesale importing business, for many years where we imported things from Mexico, not drugs, by the way, but
You might have made more
jewelry.
money, but
Right, that's true. It would have been, yeah. Jewelry, textiles, clothing, pottery, you know, all kinds of things. And I really love the experience of buying from really from artists in Mexico, you know,
yeah,
artisans that did that work and the relationship that we had with them. But I didn't trust completely living in Mexico because of the politics
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And so in some ways, New Mexico was sort of a way to be with another culture and without leaving the country, I guess.
Very much so. It'd be like living in New Orleans. That's
Yeah,
that's
there you
another
go.
planet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Going to the University of Michigan definitely
yeah,
was a game changer to me as well in a lot of ways. I mean, I was a, you know, I was a straight A student and all the way through school from K-12. and did that without really working too hard at it, you know?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
just came
it was,
natural to you.
and all of a sudden you get into a university where everybody else is a straight A student, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a complete game changer. Um, you're not the smartest kid in the shop. There's a lot of other smart kids there. And there's people from all over the world there. I mean, I remember during freshman orientation, we were walking back to the dorms and there was a group, you know, kind of calling us over. So we went, oh, you know, we're kind of traveling in clusters, right? The
Right.
nubiles that we were. And it was the Black Panthers that had formed on the campus. And they're talking to us about the Black Panthers and what they did. And, you know, politically, I think my eyes were, I mean, I wasn't blind to politics. I graduated in 1968, so you know the Vietnam War was going on, and I had friends that were being drafted and
Mhm.
were conscientious objectors, at the whole 9 yards. You know, people coming back in body bags, or you know,
Yeah. Or
with
not coming
mental
back at all. Yeah.
not coming back at all. People with mental health issues. So I wasn't uninformed, but you know, the politics on the campus were a whole different level than I had been really exposed to. Yeah, so I would say that that definitely changed things for me and the way that I looked at the world.
The world, yeah, as a whole. Well,
Yeah.
that's two down and one to go.
Oh,
This
uh,
last one will take some thought, won't it?
yeah. Well, I'd have to say it's probably becoming a parent,
Okay.
you know. I
You have
mean,
two kids, right?
I have two children.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was a young parent. Um,
12,
and
12 isn't that young, Randy.
yeah, right, I know.
Yeah.
But you know, being responsible for other people, and it's not like a dog or a cat that's, you know, gonna live for 12 years. It's somebody,
I had a litter box for my son. It took a long time for us to figure that out. So
yeah.
how was it uh, difficult pregnancy? Easy? Different? How were the kids as kids?
I had very easy pregnancy and I was dancing at the time. So I danced up till, you know, the day before both of my kids were born, pretty much.
Is that right? Good for you.
Yeah. And I was dancing again, you know, right after they were born. So I've always been athletic in
Just
that way.
excuse me, I've got to take a break. I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah. But
Though,
you
all right.
know,
So
yeah.
with Randy's life, is this it? You've just cashed in your chips. No more. We're just gonna relax on the front porch and do what John does and yell at the kids. Or obviously, you've got immediate things going on with Kids First and the film festival, and so on. What's peeking over the horizon?
Uh well, as I said, we're on our end of the year fundraiser right now. So that's pretty much taking up most of my time these days. It's critical for us to raise that money at the end of the year to make sure that we're going to be around next year. So go to our website, make a donation, even if it's $5, you know. I mean,
Every little
many
bit helps.
hands make light work. So beyond that, I'm off to New York in a couple of weeks. My friend Mallory Lewis has produced a documentary
Oh,
about her.
Sherry Lewis's daughter. I met Sherry years ago when Pam and I were doing. I think we were
Okay.
at a film festival
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
in L.A. and
Well, Mallory has made it a documentary about her mom,
oh, I can't
and
wait.
it's going to
Yeah.
premiere at the New York Documentary Film Festival on November 11th. So I'm off to join her for that. She has like 60 of her family that's coming in. She has a very tight family.
Yeah.
Um so uh and I haven't been to New York in several months, so it'll be good to be there and, hang out with some friends. And then we're planning a birthday party for my daughter's 50th birthday. She'll be 50 in January.
So you did have her when you were 12. Interesting. Okay.
I did, yeah. So it's been complicated because of the strikes,
Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
when people don't realize all the production people are out of work, and these are people like my daughter, and they need those paychecks. She hasn't worked full time since May. Now she's very resourceful, she's done a bunch of other
Sure.
things, but she's worked in the film business for 30 years.
Yeah.
So not being able to work is really a hardship for her. um
Well, that's close
but
to home. That's when it hits close to home.
Absolutely. So, thankfully the Writers Guild has been resolved, and I was reading this morning that the Screen Actors Guild looks like they might be getting closer to resolution. And, if this doesn't get resolved and they don't go back into production, we're not going to see diddly squat for films
No.
next year.
No.
It's really, although on the independent front, the independents are thriving.
Yeah.
And there's a certain contracts, I guess, that these actors can get. Somebody was explaining this to me the other day, to work on independent films. So SAG is allowing them to do that, apparently. But like films like Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. Have you seen that yet?
No, I was just talking to our mutual friend Dan Crow and his wife just went to see it, and I said, "Well, how was the movie? I've read so many things." He goes, "It was really good. The acting was great." I went, "That is the worst review of a movie I've ever heard in my life." So we talked last night on the phone, and he was he really thought it was tremendous.
Well, I'll tell you, I went to see it with my grandson, and it was really interesting to hear his point of view on it. And he said, well, I'm glad that this story is coming out and that white people are interested in hearing it and learning about it. The shortfall for me in the film, this is my grandson talking, is that we never really see the Native American point of view in
Yeah.
this film.
Yeah.
It's very much the white man's point of view. And he goes, I understand, the lead characters, Scorsese and Leo, are white. And that's what the draw is, to get people to come and see the film, and De Niro, but we don't really see what the Indian people are thinking. We see
That's what
Molly.
that's what I was digging for. Was uh, I just don't want to see in my just me another movie of the Native Americans being abused. Over and over again. Yeah, I get it, and I was wondering if there was any restitution in this, or it didn't come around to that in this film. And
It's definitely worth seeing. It's long, I said to my grandson before we went, I said, I'm just looking at it like I'm getting on a 3.5-hour flight.
yeah, that's right. Buckle up. Well, listen, I'm going to draw this to a close. And I always this happens. We just scratched the surface. So I hope at some point we'll be able to almost said reconstitute. Would that be, that would be taking the same conversation and regurgitate. That doesn't work. Let's say that we hope that we revisit each other again, because what a pleasure to talk with you, to learn more about you. All the best to you and yours, and by that I mean also your family, and also your family in the Kids First. And Kiefer, glad to hear about Kiefer. What an exciting story that is. He probably won't remember me.
I'm so glad that you remember him.
Oh, he just had this voice that was just so
He does.
I'm Kiefer. And I said,
And such a wonderful personality.
yeah, yeah. And that's
You know,
what it is. So all that to say, thank you so much. Bless you and your work, and we will talk. We'll talk soon.
thank you, my friend. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, I think next time we have to turn it around and I'll interview you.
You'll. I'll put my list of 10 things together that you don't know about John, but we're afraid to ask, and we'll call it there. All right. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, my friend.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Cheers.
And that was Johnny on the Spot. Don't forget to like and subscribe.